Welcome, everybody. This is Jeff Moore from Gruesome Magazine and Decades of Horror. And tonight we have Doc Rotten, who will be reviewing the film The Last Witch. Doc, is it really The Last Witch?
In the story, it absolutely is The Last Witch. Oh, my goodness. This film, real quick, had everything going for it. It's a found footage film, which I love found footage films. It was brought to us from the found footage POV guys, and it just seemed right up my alley. It's also a Spanish film, and I love foreign takes on found footage because they usually bring something very interesting to it. And it's about witches, which is a good subject for found footage.
Yes, I agree.
But the plot. So let's get into the plot of The Last Witch. Because you asked me about, is it truly The Last Witch? Well, in the story, these group of three people are looking for this explanation of this local stories about these five witches from the 1600s. And in that story, the four of them got killed, but the lead witch disappeared. They don't know what happened. Her death was not recorded. So the idea is to determine and record whether or not she actually died or whether she's still alive or what the deal is. And it's then it starts getting into some background about, hey, I happen to be the great granddaughter of the guy who basically hung them or killed them. So that's brought into it. So that, but that serves as motivation for her to find out what really happens, because what they have uncovered is a possible location of a family home for the witch where they suspect she would have retreated to. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Why it took hundreds of years to figure this out is a little baffling. But that's what it's all. Another thing that's kind of strange is that you would expect the location to be kind of very old, right? And it really isn't. It's not necessarily a modern house, but it's not more than 100 years old. Now, I could, since it's not an English film, so there's a lot of basically doing subtitles. I may have missed some exposition about explaining why the house isn't as old as the 1600s when this particular thing happened. But
okay,
it was off-putting in the tone in which they were trying to establish, right? Because the 1600s kept being very important to the dialogue, and even on the poster and the marketing, the 1619 is prominent. But that doesn't really show off in the film itself. The film has some problems with presenting its main bad in a way that is tonally acceptable, and except for just jarring. They fall back on the jump scare problem that a lot of films have, especially found footage, and that was incredibly disappointing for this film. While one of them is very effective, the others were kind of like, oh, I see what we're doing here. Oh my. So yes, there is a Last Witch, and you get plenty of the Last Witch. I will spoil that. And that is the draw to the film, is seeing her. But I unfortunately was not the hugest fan of this film.
Ooh, and that's saying a lot, because I know what you think of your found footage. So what was your favorite scene and your rating for The Last Witch?
My score is going to be a 2 for I will give it mostly because of the three main actors. While they don't always work together well, they still feel very honest and authentic for what they're doing, especially for a foreign film. It didn't feel forced or anything. They felt like they knew each other. They felt like they were working, together to serve not only their motivation but the plot. I really like them. I'm hemming and hawing because there's something toward the end that kind of undoes that. But for that, I give them a 2. My favorite scene is going to be the one thing I complained about. There is the first time we see The Last Witch is a jump scare, which is really effective. The film needed that jump scare at this point because it had gotten kind of slow.
Okay.
A lot of running around this house and not much happening. And then suddenly it was. But it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, unfortunately. But at the same time, it showed off The Last Witch in all her glory, and she's fairly effective for a low-budget found footage film.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Doc, and let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other Gruesome podcasts, Hard News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also, check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand format.